Well, thank you very much, and hello, CPAC. Do you miss me yet? Do you miss me yet?
I know you've been gone a while, but goddamn, did your speech have to be this long?
A lot of things going on. To so many wonderful friends, conservatives, and fellow citizens in this room and all across our country, I stand before you today to declare that the incredible journey we begun together, we went through a journey like nobody else. There's never been a journey like it. There's never been a journey so successful. We began it together 4 years ago, and it is far from being over. We've just started.
You might want to put things on double speed right now.
Our movement of proud, hardworking, and you know what this is? The hardest working people, hardworking American patriots, is just getting started. And in the end, we will win. We will win. We've been doing a lot of winning. As we gather this week, we're in the middle of a historic struggle for America's future, America's culture, and America's institutions, borders, and most cherished principles. Our security, our prosperity, and our very identity as Americans is at stake, like perhaps at no other time. So no matter how much the Washington establishment and the powerful special interests may want to silence us, let there be no doubt we will be victorious and America will be stronger and greater than ever before.
Yeah, this is still just election cope.
I want to thank...
Gonna try to speed through the fluff for you.
We are gathered this afternoon to talk about the future of our movement, the future of our party, and the future of our beloved country. For the next 4 years, the brave Republicans in this room will be at the heart of the effort to oppose the radical Democrats, the fake news media, and their toxic cancel culture. Something new to our ears, cancel culture.
Just know that Donald Trump, who has called for people to boycott the NFL because of kneeling for the flag, actually has no problem canceling people as long as they disagree with him.
And I want you to know that I'm going to continue to fight right by your side. We will do what we've done right from the beginning, which is to win. We're not starting new parties. You know, they kept saying, he's going to start a brand new party. We have the Republican Party. It's going to unite and be stronger than ever before. I am not starting a new party. That was fake news.
It wasn't news reported as fact, it was speculation, but you have to twist everything to fit your narrative, don't you?
Fake news, no. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Let's start a new party and let's divide our vote so that you can never win. No, we're not interested in that. No, we have tremendous... Mr. McLaughlin just gave me numbers that nobody's ever heard of before. More popular than anybody. That's all of us. It's all of us. Those are great numbers, and I want to thank you very much. Those are incredible numbers. I came here, and he was giving me 95%, 97%, 92%.
I'd like to point out that Democrats don't trust their leaders nearly as much as Republicans blindly follow Trump.
I said they're great, and I want to thank you. We will be united and strong like never before. We will save and strengthen America, and we will fight the onslaught of radicalism, socialism, and indeed, it all leads to communism once and for all. That's what it leads to.
Now, obviously, Trump has no idea what socialism or communism actually means, nor does he actually care. But more importantly, notice how he constantly alternates between condemning the leftist radicals and then turning around and talking about how anti-establishment he supposedly is.
You'll be hearing more and more about that as we go along, but that's what it leads to. You know that. We all knew that the Biden administration was going to be bad, but none of us even imagined just how bad they would be and how far left they would go. He never talked about this.
Left my ass. Where's the $2,000 checks? Where's the $15 minimum wage? Where's the public option? None of Biden's even milquetoast moderate promises have even been fulfilled yet.
We would have those wonderful debates. He would never talk about this. We didn't know what the hell he was talking about, actually.
You'd lost the debates to a senile old man.
His campaign was all lies, talked about energy. I said, you know, this guy actually, he's okay with energy. He wasn't okay with energy. He wants to put you all out of business. He's not okay with energy. He wants windmills, the windmills that don't work when you need them.
The fuck are you talking about? There are windmills in Antarctica. The reason Texas's power grid failed was because it was deregulated by Texas.
Joe Biden has had the most disastrous first month of any president in modern history. That's true.
Millions of vaccine doses administered. Sounds awful.
Already the Biden administration has proven that they are anti-jobs,
This is not true.
anti-family,
This means pro-gay marriage.
anti-borders,
Last I checked, kids were still in cages.
anti-energy, anti-women.
This is just a transphobic dog whistle. These people don't give a fuck about women. They care about controlling bodies and controlling behavior.
And anti-science.
Well, that's strange because environmental scientists, biologists, and basically all scientific fields overwhelmingly vote left.
In just one short month, we have gone from America first to America last. You think about it, right? America last.
What a low IQ degenerate. Not only is he putting things in such simplistic reductionist terms, he actually thinks he's making a profound point here.
There's no better example than the new and horrible crisis on our southern border.
40 miles of wall.
It's such
Impressive.
a good job. It was all worked. Nobody's ever seen anything like we did, and now he wants it all to go to hell. When I left office just 6 weeks ago, we had created the most secure border in U.S. history. We had built almost 500 miles of great border wall.
No, 90% of those were upgrading pre-existing walls. Also, the border is 2,000 miles long.
That helped us with these numbers because once it's up, you know, they used to say a wall doesn't work. Well, you know what I've always said? Walls and wheels, those are two things that will never change. The wall has been amazing. It's been incredible. And little sections of it to complete, they don't want to complete it.
Because it's a complete waste of money for an ineffective symbol of
They
xenophobia?
don't want to complete little sections in certain little areas. They don't want to complete, but it's had an impact that nobody would have even believed.
Like what? Did crime go down? Did wages go up?
It's amazing considering that the Democrats' #1 priority was to make sure that the wall would never, ever get built, would never, ever happen, would never get financed. We got it financed. We ended catch and release.
Despite no evidence it's bad for us.
Ended asylum fraud.
That's not a thing.
And brought illegal crossings to historic lows. When illegal aliens trespass across our borders, they were promptly caught, detained, and sent back home.
Don't forget, they were separated from their families first and kept in concentration camps.
These were some rough customers. I want to tell you, some rough customers were entering our country. It took the new administration only a few weeks to turn this unprecedented accomplishment into a self-inflicted humanitarian and national security disaster by recklessly eliminating our border.
This has not happened.
Security measures, controls, all of the things that we put into place. Joe Biden has triggered a massive flood of illegal immigration into our country, the likes of which we have never seen before. They're coming up by the tens of thousands.
Citation needed.
They're all coming to take advantage of the things that he said that's luring everybody to come to America. And we're one country. We can't afford the problems of the world as much as we'd love to.
If you really thought that, you would have gotten us out of the Middle East.
We'd love to help, but we can't do that. So they're all coming because of promises and foolish words. Perhaps worst of all, Joe Biden's decision to cancel border security
I wish this was the case.
has single-handedly launched a youth migrant crisis that is enriching child smugglers, vicious criminal cartels, and some of the most evil people on the planet. You see it every day. Just turn on the news. You'll see it every day.
You mean the fake news? Also, characterizing brown people at the border as violent criminals is kind of super racist.
Under my administration, we stopped the child smugglers. We dismantled the criminal cartels. We greatly limited drug and human trafficking to a level that nobody actually thought was possible.
Yeah, this didn't happen.
And the wall helped us a lot. And we protected vulnerable people from the ravages of dangerous predators. And that's what they are, dangerous, dangerous predators.
All the empirical evidence suggests that after entering America, undocumented immigrants are far less likely to commit crimes than regular citizens.
But the Biden administration has put the vile coyotes back in business, and it has done so in a very, very big way. Under the new administration, catch and release has been restored. Can you imagine? We work so hard. Catch, you know what that is. You catch them, you take their name. They may be killers, they may be rapists, they may be drug smugglers. You take their name and you release them into our country.
Yes, I'm sure people going to court soon will be very eager to commit crimes.
We did the opposite. We not only didn't release them, we had them brought back to their country.
A lot of dreamers were brought to America as children and have never known a different country. But the idea race should determine where you belong is super ethno-nationalist.
Illegal immigrants are now being apprehended and released along the entire southern border, just the opposite of what it was 2 months ago. They weren't coming because they couldn't get in.
Yeah, they could. Most undocumented immigrants came here legally and then overstayed their visas.
Once they think they can get in, they're coming, and they are coming at levels that you haven't even seen yet. By the hundreds of thousands, by the millions they'll be coming. The Biden administration is now actively expediting the admission of illegal migrants, enabling them to lodge frivolous asylum claims and admitting them by the thousands and thousands and thousands a day, crowded together in unsanitary conditions.
Actually, the detention centers follow COVID guidelines now.
Despite the ongoing economic and public health crisis, COVID-19, or as I call it, the China virus. There's no masks. There's no double masks. That was a new one that came out 2 weeks ago. First, Fauci said, you don't need masks, no good, no. Then all of a sudden he wanted me. Now he wants double masks.
Yeah, scientists change their minds when new data comes out, especially when concerning novel coronaviruses.
No social distancing, no nothing. They're together, and it's sad, actually, and it's sad for them, and it's sad for our country. What the Biden administration is doing to push young migrants into the hands of human traffickers and coyotes is dangerous, immoral, and indefensible. Hard to believe it's happening.
Because it's not. The whole point of asylum is to avoid traffickers. How many self-contradictory lies are you going to tell?
Biden has failed in his number one duty as chief executive, enforcing America's laws. This alone should be reason enough for Democrats to suffer withering losses in the midterms and to lose the White House decisively 4 years from now. Actually, as you know, they just lost the White House, but it's one of those.
Still in the stage of denial.
But who knows? Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay? Joe Biden defunded the border wall and stopped all future construction, even on small open sections that just needed to be finished up. Routine little work. It's already been bought. Wait till the contractors get to them and they say, no, it costs us much more money not to finish the small section than if we finished it.
What? That doesn't even make sense.
That's going to be nice. Wait till you see those bills start pouring in. He revoked the executive order cracking down on deadly sanctuary cities. He has effectively ordered a shutdown of ICE.
I fucking wish. ICE is a redundant piece of cruelty that does nothing but violate human rights. Gonna skip all the redundant disinformation now.
And remember, with the caravans, these countries, not only the three of them, but many, many countries all over the world, they're not giving us their best and their finest because they're intelligent. They're not giving us their best and their finest. Remember, I said that. I said that a long time ago when I made the first remarks, when I came down the escalator with our great future First Lady. But I said that a long time ago, and we turned out to be 100% correct.
Don't you love it when people declare themselves correct?
Biden's radical immigration policies aren't just illegal. They're immoral, they're heartless, and they are a betrayal of our nation's core values.
That's right. We have never tolerated uninvited guests.
It's a terrible thing that's happening. The Republican Party must hold Joe Biden and the Democrats accountable. They ripped up the diplomatic agreements we negotiated with Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador to shut down illegal immigration. You know, they got a fortune. They got paid $500 million a year. When I came into office...
Oh my God, I don't care about your made-up stories.
And when illegal aliens came across our border, They were rapidly deported and lovingly accepted by those countries from where they came.
This is not true. El Salvador and Honduras never implemented these policies.
And it worked out great, so now they accept the people. And then we ultimately got along very well with those countries, those three countries, and many countries throughout the world, because they respected us again. They didn't respect us. They couldn't believe what they were getting away with.
Trump paints anybody other than himself as a purely malicious crook who wants nothing except to screw him over. Perhaps it's because he can't think of anything except in terms of himself, but it does feed the conservative victim complex very nicely.
To top it all off, the Biden people are pushing a bill that would grant mass amnesty for millions of illegal aliens while massively expanding chain migration. That's where you come in and everybody comes in, your grandmother, your father, your mother, your brother, your cousins.
Wait, I thought you were pro-family. Also, by calling attention to their extended families, he implies brown people are savages who can't stop
They
multiplying.
come in so easily, so crazy, so crazy. It even requires that the U.S. government provide illegal border crossers with taxable funded lawyers.
Yeah, who cares about human rights and the Sixth Amendment?
Lawyers. Anybody need a good lawyer? You can't have one. They get the lawyers. They get lawyers. They're probably very good, too. The Democrat immigration bill is a globalist corporate. You take a look at the corporatists. Big tech attack on hardworking citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
What does this have to do with immigration?
And Republicans must ensure that it never is allowed to become federal law, which is what they want to do.
Nobody wants to make censorship law.
We must stand tall in the party for law-abiding Americans and others when they're in our country. Border security is just one of the many issues on which the new administration has already betrayed the American people. He didn't talk about this stuff. I debated him.
Debated him. What a beta cuck.
He wasn't talking about this. He wasn't. What he signed with those executive orders, they weren't things that were discussed.
They did talk about immigration, and Trump's just mauling that he lost.
Refused to let him answer. They refused to let him answer the questions. Maybe we could have found something, or if the media did its job, which they don't. Their callous indifference to working families is equally clear when it comes to the critical matter of getting America's children back to school. And they must get back and get back right now. Right now.
Yes, in the middle of a pandemic, when we could just wait a couple months and save thousands of lives.
The Biden administration is actually bragging about the classroom education they are providing to migrant children on the border, while at the same time millions of American children are having their futures destroyed by Joe Biden's anti-science school closures. Think of it.
Again, the scientists all agree with
We're
Biden.
educating students on the border, but our own people, the children of our citizens themselves, are not getting the education that they deserve. The only reason that most parents do not have that choice is because Joe Biden sold out America's children to the teachers' unions.
Yeah, fuck the teachers and fuck the unions. Also, I'm pro-working class.
His position is morally inexcusable, you know that.
There he goes again, saying obviously incorrect things as if they were obviously correct, and ascribing nothing but malice to anybody
It's
else.
the teachers' union, it's the votes, and it shouldn't happen. And nobody has more respect for teachers than I do. And I'll bet you a lot of the people within that union, they agree with everything I'm saying.
This is another favorite strategy of Trump's, appealing to some vague, silent majority whose existence is very doubtful.
Even the New York Times is calling out the Democrats. The mental and physical health of these young people is reaching a breaking point.
Wait, what about the physical health of those people who contract COVID and have lifelong conditions now? What about the mental health of all those people who lost family members because you pretended COVID was a hoax?
Tragically, suicide attempts have skyrocketed, and student depression is now commonplace and at levels that we've never seen before.
Do you think that has something to do with poverty and our refusal to give people stimulus checks?
The Democrats now say we have to pass their $1.9 trillion boondoggle to open schools, but a very small part of it has to do with that. You know where it's going. It's going to bail out badly run Democrat cities, so much of it.
See, Donald Trump doesn't actually care about the American people. If you're Democrat, he literally does not give a fuck if you die.
But billions of dollars for schools remain unspent from the COVID relief bills that were passed last year. So on behalf of the moms, dads, and children of America, I call on Joe Biden to get the schools open and get them open now. It'd be a great thing to do. When I left office, and we're very proud of this because this was something that they said could not be done.
The FDA said it, everybody said it. In the article you read said it couldn't be done over years and years.
I handed the new administration what everyone is now calling 2 vaccines produced in record time with numerous others on the way, including the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that was approved just yesterday.
Great, you get to take credit for a common sense policy that nobody else wouldn't have done.
And therapeutic relief also, if you're sick. If you're sick, we have things now that are incredible. I pushed the FDA like they have never been pushed before. They told me that loud and clear. What the Trump administration has done with vaccines
Wasn't it a German couple who came up with the vaccine?
has, in many respects, perhaps saved large portions of the world, not only our country, but large portions of the world. We also put up billions and billions of dollars, 10 billion, to produce the vaccines before we knew they were going to work. It was called a calculated bet.
But you also purchased far fewer doses in total than you needed.
A long time before you ever saw them. It takes 60 to 100 days to manufacture and inspect new doses. And that means that 100% of the increased availability that we have now was initiated by our administration. 100%.
Want to talk about your non-existent distribution plan?
In fact, the director of National Institutes of Health, Francis Collins, he's Fauci's boss, actually. I think he's a Democrat, too, by the way, recently said that our Operation Warp Speed was absolutely breathtaking and that the Trump administration deserves full credit. And as conservatives and Republicans, never forget that we did it. Never let them take the credit because they don't deserve the credit. They just followed now, they're following our plan.
No, you had no distribution plan. Biden had to make one up from scratch.
And if we had an honest media, which we don't, they would say it loud and clear.
What a whiny baby, always looking for validation.
By the time I left that magnificent house at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, almost 20 million Americans had already been vaccinated. 1.5 million doses were administered on my final day alone. 1.5 million in a day. Yet Biden said just a few days ago that when he got here, meaning the White House, there was no vaccine.
There was no distribution plan.
Now, I don't think he said that, frankly, in a malicious way. I really don't. I actually believe he said that because he didn't really know what the hell was happening.
This is literally like the pot calling the kettle black.
Last year, I predicted to you that the extremism, corruption, and incompetence of the Biden administration
Again, the pot calling the kettle black, except Joe Biden is a moderate.
would be literally unprecedented in American history. Biden has urged Congress to pass legislation shredding your Second Amendment.
What part about well-regulated militia don't you understand?
Your Second Amendment is in far bigger trouble than you know. And for 4 years, I fought like hell to save your Second Amendment, and we saved it 100%. He signed an order to conduct politically correct, far-left indoctrination trainings in every department of the federal government,
Has a single word of truth come out of his mouth?
including the U.S. military, after I had terminated these horrible things that were being preached to our military. And he wants it to go forward. It's insane.
These horrible things are insane. Could you be less specific?
Within his first few hours, Biden eliminated our national security travel bans on nations plagued by terrorism.
You mean nations filled with brown people you want to keep out?
His first priority was to open our borders to unvetted travelers from Libya, Yemen, Syria, Somalia, and many other countries where strict vetting cannot occur. Countries that have tremendous problems, countries with tremendous terrorism problems.
Yeah, this is super Islamophobic. The idea Muslims present a national security threat is ridiculous, especially compared to white nationalist threats here at
We
home.
did a travel ban. It was a real achievement. We told those countries, sorry, straighten out your act. We don't want people coming in where they had an ideology or a problem. We just couldn't have it.
Wait, you're discriminating people because of their ideology? That's literally cancel culture.
And it was incredible. How it worked was incredible.
Wait, how do you know it worked? Because there were no bombings?
And he terminated it. We had to get it approved. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. We got it approved, and he terminates it. In addition, he's already increased refugee admissions by nearly 10 times, but in effect, it'll soon be hundreds of times as millions of people flow up through our soon-to-be open borders.
Wrong again.
And by the way, the Border Patrol and ICE, these are some of the great heroes of our country. These are incredible people. Your family still cannot go out to eat at local restaurants, but Joe Biden is bringing in thousands upon thousands of refugees from all over the world.
More fear-mongering about brown people.
When I left office, we had virtually ended the endless wars.
Liar. Name one country you completely withdrew out of.
Iraq. Remember, I used to say, don't go in, but if you're going to go in, keep the oil.
There's no evidence Trump opposed the Iraq war until months after we invaded.
Well, we went in and we didn't keep the oil. We had made historic peace deals in the Middle East,
Illegitimate peace deals that deliberately leave out Palestine.
like nobody thought were even possible. And by the way, not one American soldier has been killed in Afghanistan in over a year. Think of that. Not one.
But why didn't you just withdraw us completely?
Those troops have largely come home. At the same time, the new administration unilaterally withdrew our crippling sanctions on Iran.
Because those sanctions violate international law, especially the embargo on medical supplies. People are dying.
Foolishly giving away all of America's leverage before negotiations have even begun.
Biden was part of the original nuclear deal. We don't need to take advice from you.
Had we had a fair election, the results would have been much different, and we would have had a deal. We would have had a deal with Iran within the first week. They wanted those sanctions off. He took them off for nothing. For nothing. Now you watch how tough they negotiate.
He thinks sanctions are intrinsically good. He's a sadistic bully.
In another horrendous surrender, he agreed to get back into the World Health Organization for approximately $500 million a year, which is what we were paying. When I withdrew from the WHO, and you know the whole story with that, they called it badly. They really are puppets for China.
That's not even true, but he'll withdraw from an effort to coordinate international health just to get back at China.
They called it. We could have had it for 39. We could have had it for the same as China, and they decide now to go back into the World Health Organization and pay $500 million. What the hell is wrong with them?
Yeah, making sure an international health organization is properly funded is completely unimportant. What are we, in a global pandemic or something?
Joe Biden put the United States back into the very unfair and very costly Paris Climate Accord without negotiating a better deal.
Wait, what cost? The climate accords are non-binding.
They wanted us so badly back in.
Holy fuck. Every single foreign policy story Trump tells goes like this. The world says, America, we need your help to save the world. Trump says, yeah, but what's in it for me? The world says, you're saving the world. And Trump says, no, fuck you, die. That's literally all his foreign policy.
And in one of his first official acts, which was incredible because, again, he talked about energy. He never said he was going to do this. He canceled the Keystone XL pipeline. Not the 8,000 or the 9,000 or the 11,000 jobs that you hear, but 42,000 great-paying jobs.
Because they're temporary bad jobs and terrible for the environment. If you didn't care about the quality of the jobs, then you could just hire a bunch of people to dig holes in the ground and hire more people to fill those holes back up.
On just about day one, right? He never talked about that during a debate because he wouldn't have gotten away with it. Well, he would have because they cheated so much it probably wouldn't have mattered. No, but that was not a topic of conversation, remember? Fracking, you can frack. Oh, we love fracking.
He never said that. He said he'd not allow new fracking on federal land.
During the primary, no fracking. As soon as he got through that, he said, no, of course, everybody can frack. No fracking. You wait till you see what happens with your gasoline. Wait till you see what happens, and we cannot let this stuff continue to go on. One of my proudest accomplishments as president was to make America energy independent.
We still import over 7 million barrels of crude a day.
The United States became the #1 energy superpower on earth. Became #1. Bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia by a lot. We left them all in the dust. They were all in the dust. But if the Democrats have their way, we are heading from energy dominance to energy disaster. That's what's happening.
There's no evidence a gradual phase out of fossil fuels would lead to disaster.
You have to see what's going on. Everything's being closed up. It's a disaster. The blackouts we saw in California last summer and all the time.
Wait, those were because people used air conditioning because of the heat wave, and the heat wave was caused by climate change.
And the windmill calamity that we're witnessing in Texas.
All of the energy sources in Texas faced problems, but there was nothing wrong specifically with windmills. There are windmills in Antarctica and Alaska. What's really wrong is Texas's independent, unregulated power grid, which never got winterized because there was no regulation and no market incentive to do so.
Well, Alice, the wind isn't blowing. I don't believe we'll have any electricity. Remember, we would kid, but I wasn't actually kidding.
Well, you should have been, because all you need there is an energy storage system.
It's such an expensive form of energy.
It's actually not when done correctly.
It's so bad for the environment.
It's far cleaner than fossil fuels.
It kills the birds, it destroys the landscapes. And remember, these are structural columns with fans on them. They wear out, and when they wear out all over the country, you see them. Nobody takes them down. They're rotting, they're rusting.
Wind turbines are built to last 20 to 30 years at least.
How this is environmentally good for our country, and it costs many, many times more than natural gas, which is clean.
Wait, who here opposes natural gas?
It costs many more and can fuel our great factories. Wind can't do that. And solar, I love solar, but it doesn't have the capacity to do what we have to do to make America great again. Sorry.
Again, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. Scientists have laid out clearly what we should do to prevent a climate disaster. What he's doing by quote-unquote asking questions is just undermining science.
Under the radical Democrat policies, the price of gasoline has already surged 30% since the election.
Do you think that has something to do with the states gradually opening up and driving more?
And we'll go to $5. Energy prices are going to go through the roof, and that includes your electric bills. That includes any bill having to do with energy, our biggest cost.
The small increases in price from gradual phase-outs will be nothing compared to the climate disaster that we'll face if we don't keep climate change under control. You think immigration is bad now? Wait till you see climate refugees.
We will now be relying on Russia and the Middle East for oil. And they talk about Russia, Russia, Russia. What's better than what this guy's done for Russia?
I don't care what happens with Russia, but ideally we'd actually be substituting our fossil fuels with green energy.
I had oil where they were actually paying you to take it.
That's because of your mismanagement of COVID, so everybody had to stay home.
And I dealt with Russia and Saudi Arabia.
But you didn't have a problem selling hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weapons to Saudi Arabia as they carry out a genocide in Yemen, did you?
But now it's going the opposite, because now they're taking this incredible energy independence away from the people of our country, and you're going to see costs go like you have never seen them go before.
Yeah, this is alarmism. Gas prices will be fine.
Joe Biden and the Democrats are even pushing policies that would destroy women's sports.
Oh, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. Didn't you say you were the LGBT president?
A lot of new records are being broken in women's sports. Hate to say that, ladies, but got a lot of new records. They're being shattered. You know, for years, the weightlifting, every ounce is like a big deal for many years. All of a sudden, somebody comes along and beats it by 100 pounds. Boom, boom. Now, young girls and women are incensed that they are now being forced to compete against those who are biological males.
Transgender women in sports is a very complex topic. The effects of puberty blockers and hormones are studied very closely. There is a legitimate conversation to be had about whether transgender women who have already gone through male puberty have a slight advantage over cis women in certain athletic categories. But conservatives don't care about the nuance. They're not here to have a good faith conversation about these issues. They're just transphobic. That's why they fearmonger about this epidemic of men pretending to be women so that they can crush women's records. Conservatives have never cared about women, and they don't care about women's sports. Nobody cares about women's sports. They're just transphobic.
It's not good for women. It's not good for women's sports, which worked so long and so hard to get to where they are. The records that stood for years, even decades, are now being smashed with ease. Smashed. If this is not changed, women's sports, as we know it, will die. They'll end. It'll end.
How pathetic do you have to be to think that this requires federal attention at a time like this? Why not let the sports organizations decide for themselves? I know why. Because you're a sick fuck who likes messing with people.
What coach, if I'm a coach, I want to be a great coach. What coach, as an example, wants to recruit a young woman to compete if her record can easily be broken by somebody who was born a man?
Should I even talk about how AMAB people are at no advantage compared to cis women if they transfer before puberty? It seems they've already made up their mind and no amount of science will change it.
Not too many of those coaches around, right? They are around. They won't be around long because they're going to have a big problem when their record is, we're 0-16, but we're getting better. Somebody said, well, that's going to be very controversial. I said, that's okay. You haven't heard anything yet. As you can see, the early weeks of the Biden administration have nothing less than, they've been a catastrophe. The task for our movement and our party is to stand up to this destructive agenda with confidence and with resolve. The future of the Republican Party is as a party that defends the social, economic, and cultural interests and values of working American families of every race, color, and creed.
Unless, of course, you're black, or you're brown, or you're transgender.
That's why the party is growing so rapidly, and it's becoming a different party. And it's becoming a party of love. To see outside the streets, I mean, there's such love. The flags, no, it's a party that's incredible. The people, the spirit. And there are, as you probably heard a little while ago, I mean, there's more spirit now than there's ever been, including even before the election. More spirit now than we've ever seen because people are seeing how bad it can be.
Basically, nothing's happened under Biden so far.
And again, I want to thank Republicans believe that the needs of every citizen must come first.
Is that why you're all against the $15 minimum wage and Medicare for all?
In fact, America must come first. We don't put it first. They don't put it first. Over the past 4 years, my administration delivered for Americans of all backgrounds like never before. Like never before. We built the strongest economy in the history of the world.
It wasn't the strongest economy in the history of the United States, much less the world, and you didn't build it. Your success was just a continuation of Obama's.
Raised wages and achieved the lowest African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American unemployment rates ever recorded.
That had nothing to do with you. The employment rate rose faster in each of Obama's last 3 years than any of your first 3.
It was so great for everybody of all backgrounds that even after the China virus, we are leading the world. Nobody's even close. We're leading it in the comeback, our economic comeback.
Because unlike more responsible countries with fewer deaths, we just ignore the problem and throw lives away to feed the economy.
It's been Incredible. That's because the financial and economic foundation we built was so strong that unlike other countries who are having a hard time, we didn't break. We came roaring back, and now our stock market and your 401ks are, again, at record levels, higher than ever before, actually.
The stock market is not the economy. The stock market is not the economy. The stock market is not the economy.
Many people have asked, what is Trumpism? A new term being used more and more. I'm hearing that term more and more. I didn't come up with it. But what it means is great deals, great trade deals, great ones, not deals where we give away everything, our jobs, our money. Like the USMCA replacement of the horrible NAFTA. NAFTA was one of the worst deals ever made, probably the worst trade deal ever made.
The USMCA was barely any different from NAFTA. It just had your name on it, which automatically makes it good.
And we ended it. You know, a lot of people forget. We ended it. Now we have the USMCA, Mexico, Canada. It's incredible what it's done for our farmers who are doing fantastically.
So fantastic that you had to pay them back because of all the damage your trade war with China did.
Did you see grain prices?
Yeah, no, I don't care.
It means low taxes and eliminating job-killing regulations, Trumpism.
How do regulations kill jobs? They just keep you from exploiting market failures.
It means strong borders, but people coming into our country based on a system of merit. So they come in and they can help us as opposed to coming here.
The data is pretty clear. Immigration is just good for the country. When people immigrate, they increase demand, creating more jobs.
And not being good for us, including criminals, of which there are many. It means no riots in the streets.
Unless, of course, they're your people attempting to institute a coup.
It means law enforcement. It means very strong protection for the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. It means support for the forgotten men and women who have been taken advantage of for so many years, and they were doing great.
See, again, an appeal to the silent majority which doesn't even exist.
They were doing great before that horrible thing from China came in and hit us.
With you helpfully super spreading it around the country.
And now they're starting to do really well again. You know, if you think about it, we built the economy twice. We built it then.
That was Obama.
And then, like every other country in the world, it went down, and then we built it again. Now it's higher in many ways, certainly in the stock market.
No, that's the only way it's higher, and the stock market basically tells us how well the rich are doing.
It's higher in many ways than it was before. That's because of the foundation, and no country comes even close to competing with our comeback. And it means a strong military.
He claims to be anti-war, but all his policies suggest otherwise.
And taking care of our vets, but a strong military, which we have totally rebuilt. We have rebuilt it.
Yeah, you rebuilt it from being larger than the next 9 nations combined to being larger than the next 10 countries combined. Amazing.
And our military has never been stronger than it is today. It was tired, it was depleted, it was obsolete, and now we have the best brand new equipment ever made.
It's literally one big boondoggle.
And it was all produced right here in the USA. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, man, all the weapons we used to blow up other people overseas are
And we
made in
take
the
care
US
of our
of A,
vets.
man.
You know, we had a poll recently, just before leaving office. The vets had a 91% approval rating for the way we took care of them. That's the highest number in the history of the polls. On top of all of that, we have even created the Space Force, the first new branch of the United States military in nearly 75
The
years.
Space Force may be useless, but I'm okay
The
with it.
mission of the Democrat Party is to promote socialism. They want to promote socialism.
Where in the Democratic Party platform is the word socialist mentioned? Now look, I am a socialist. I'm not going to lie to you when I say the Democrats aren't.
Ultimately leading, unfortunately, to communism.
What are a few of these communist policies you're talking about?
And that will happen. If you look at Venezuela, you look at
Why
some
do
of these
conservatives
countries, that's why
always
some of
just
our
use the
biggest
same
supporters
two shit
from
arguments?
South America, Latin America, because they've seen what goes on with all of this cancel culture, and you can't speak, and let's cut them off, and let's not give them words.
Wait, you think cancel culture's a thing in South America? What the actual fuck?
The mission of our movement and of the Republican Party must be to create a future of good jobs strong families, safe communities,
That's a dog whistle for saying no black people.
a vibrant culture.
The vibrant culture Donald Trump speaks about is that of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Brown people will be kept out of the country, the black people in the slums. Everybody will conform to their traditional gender role, no expressing different sexuality or gender identities or anything like that. When fascists talk about culture, they always mean they're trying to preserve it from some corrupting outside force.
And a great nation for all Americans, and that's what we're creating. Their party is based upon unvarnished disdain for America.
Again, I have disdain for America, but most Democrats don't.
Its past and its people. You see that happening. It's horrible the way they treat the legacy of our country.
With facts and accuracy and recognition of its flaws,
The culture of our country. Our party is based on love for America and the belief that this is an exceptional nation blessed by God.
God doesn't exist, and America's exceptionally bad.
We take great pride in our country. We teach the truth about history.
No, you don't.
We celebrate our rich heritage and national tradition.
See extreme patriotism, ethno-nationalism, an emphasis on tradition, an emphasis on strength, scapegoating an external group. These are all fundamental characteristics of fascism.
We honor George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and all national heroes. And of course, we respect our great American flag. We believe in patriotic education and strongly oppose the radical indoctrination of America's youth.
How do you have so little awareness that you'll actually say those two sentences right next to each other? First, you advocate government-sponsored propaganda, essentially book burning to hide all our nation's errors away, and then you talk about indoctrination. Nothing in the media comes anywhere close to how tyrannical this would be. This is how you know conservatives actually don't give a fuck about cancel culture or freedom of thought. Patriotic education is what fascists use to get their children to become mindless robots. It's profoundly anti-intellectual and a threat to our freedoms.
It's horrible. We are committed to defending innocent life and to upholding the Judeo-Christian values of our founders and of our founding.
This is actually theocratic shit right now. Holy fuck, how does anybody not see this?
We embrace free thought.
You keep saying one thing and then directly contradicting it in the next sentence. This is actual doublespeak. Look at these people, mindlessly clapping and cheering with no heed to the contradictions. It's actually insane.
We stand up to political correctors, and we reject left-wing lunacy, and in particular, we reject cancel culture.
If it isn't obvious now that Donald Trump is a full-on fascist, I don't know what will convince you.
We know that the rule of law is the ultimate safeguard. And we affirm that the Constitution means exactly what it says, as written, as written.
This is another conservative charade. Nobody actually cares about what's in the Constitution. Like, these people don't care that there's a freedom of religion. They're gonna try to institute theocracy if they can. They actually don't care.
They want to change it. They want to change it. They want to get rid of it, frankly. We believe in law and order, and
Another element of fascism, an obsession with discipline and
we
punishment.
believe that the men and women of law enforcement are heroes who truly deserve our absolute support. We don't defund the police. We are not defunding the police.
If you really supported the police, you wouldn't rush them out every time anybody calls about anything. Like when Granny's cat gets stuck in the tree. Police officers are peacekeepers, not mediators or psychologists. For those kinds of conflicts, you can send social workers.
We believe in standing up to China, shutting down outsourcing, bringing back our factories and supply chains, and ensuring that America, not China, dominates the future of the world.
There we go, more autarky and jingoism rolled into one.
And by the way, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China.
This is not true. Economists say the American consumers paid for the tariffs.
During my administration, they never gave us 10 cents. It was a one-way street. We took in hundreds of billions, and during negotiations, they would say, look, the one thing, we don't want any more of these tariffs.
These stories are all made up, but these fantasies all share the same storyline. Donald Trump acting macho and tough, other entities are impotent and submissive. Donald Trump's mind is actually like Jordan Peterson's lobster brain analogy. All he can think of is dominance and power. Absolutely unhinged and adored by millions of followers with submissive personalities.
Those tariffs, we took in so much money. And what happened is they became competitive. So what happened with people, they wouldn't go to China. They'd build a lot of it back in our country. They would make it here instead.
There is no evidence of that. China will continue taking jobs and nobody can do anything about it.
But that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons that right now our farmers are doing so good.
This is the exact opposite of true. Fascists will do this a lot of time by gaslighting people into believing things that are clearly contradictory. That way nobody will know what's true anymore and they'll be intellectually disarmed.
I used to tell China, look, companies that leave America to create jobs in China and other countries that have ripped us off for years should not be rewarded. They should be tariffed, fined, and punished. They should not be rewarded.
By now, this video is just a clinic in identifying fascist tropes, extreme protectionism, an obsession with punishment.
And that's what the Biden administration is doing. But of course, as you know, they have a very close personal relationship with China. Never forget it. These are the convictions that define our movement today and must define the Republican Party in the years ahead. Very simple. It's really quite simple, isn't it? Another one of the most urgent issues facing the Republican Party is that of ensuring fair, honest, and secure elections. Such a disgrace. We must pass comprehensive election reforms, and we must do it now. The Democrats use the China virus as an excuse to change all of the election rules without the approval of their state legislatures, making it therefore illegal.
This is just not true. Countless lawsuits later, Trump has not won a single case. As fascists do, Trump is trying to reduce confidence in our elections so that people will be more willing to try more extreme strategies like authoritarianism.
It had a massive impact on the election. Again, you have to go to the legislatures to get these approvals. This alone would have easily changed the outcome of the election at levels that you wouldn't have even believed. Even with COVID, even with all of the things, the numbers are staggering. We can never let this or other abuses of the 2020 election be repeated or happen again. Can never let that happen again.
I'm pretty sure Trump just lost another lawsuit in Maricopa County or something.
You see what's going on. We've been set back so greatly with other countries and with the world. We need election integrity and election reform immediately. Republicans should be the party of honest elections that can give everyone confidence in the future of our country. Without honest elections, who has confidence?
You know who has confidence? The rest of the international community, none of whom have condemned this election because they know it was not fraudulent.
Who has confidence? This issue is being studied and examined, but the reality is you cannot have a situation where ballots are indiscriminately pouring in from all over the country, tens of millions of ballots. Where are they coming from? They're coming all over the place. Where illegal aliens and dead people are voting.
This one was debunked months ago.
And many other horrible things are happening that are too voluminous to even mention, but people know. I mean, it's
more vague gesturing.
And the Supreme Court and other courts didn't want to do anything about it. They didn't have the courage to act, but instead used process and lack of standing. I was told the President of the United States has no standing. It's my election, it's your election, we have no standing.
Plenty of your other court cases were decided on their non-merits.
We had almost 20, if you think of it, we had almost 20 states go into the Supreme Court so that we didn't have a standing problem. They rejected it. They rejected it. They should be ashamed of themselves. for what they've done to our country. They didn't have the guts or the courage to make the right decision.
I can't stress to you how close we were to getting a Trump dictatorship. All it would take is slightly weaker institutions or slightly more corrupt judges that vote in favor of Trump, and our country's done.
We need one election day, not 45, 30.
This is just to make sure that people who can't make it to the polls, namely usually poor and black people, don't get to vote. That's it.
One day. And the only people that should be allowed to vote by mail are people that can be proven to be either very sick or out of the country or military where they can't do it. One day. They have millions and millions of ballots sitting around all over the place for long periods of time. Gee, I wonder what happens with those ballots. I wonder what happens. It's common sense. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. There should be a legitimate reason for someone to vote absentee. Has to have a reason. We should eliminate the insanity of mass and very corrupt mail-in voting.
We've done mail-in voting since at least the Civil War. There's no evidence for widespread voter fraud through the mail.
We must have voter ID.
Republicans don't want to restrict access to the vote as much as possible because they care about election integrity. They know that far more legal votes would be blocked than illegal votes. But again, they know that poor people and black people tend to vote Democrat, and they know that they tend to have a hard time getting voter ID and stuff. So they literally are just doing whatever they can to win, including racist laws.
You know, to get into the Democrat National Convention, when they had the convention, you needed voter ID.
Yeah, but they're an independent organization. They can afford to be more exclusive if they want.
They're conning everybody. They know that. They know the wall was good. They knew the wall would work, but they didn't want to have it because we wanted it. I made one big mistake on the wall. I should have said, we will not have a wall. And then they would have said, let's build a wall.
Do people legitimately think that's funny?
I made a big mistake. We need universal signature matching. They want to pass a bill where you don't have to match signatures, where signatures don't mean anything.
Yeah, they don't mean anything. I don't have a signature. If you ask me 2 weeks apart to write my signature, the signature would be completely different both times.
There should be a 100% requirement to verify the citizenship of every person who votes.
There already is.
And there must be a chain of custody protections for every ballot. And you saw what happened in Detroit and Philadelphia and many other places, swing states mostly, all over, but swing states mostly. You saw what happened. You saw what was going on. You saw that more people, you take a look at the votes. When you have more votes than you have people, that's a problem, right? Is that a problem? You know, we have a little problem adjusting in Detroit. We seem to have more votes than we have people.
Completely wrong. Only half of registered voters in Detroit voted.
A lot more votes. An election-changing number. We're not talking about a number where you catch. No, these are election-changing numbers. In Pennsylvania, they had hundreds of thousands of more votes than they had people voting.
There's no evidence of this.
Regardless of your political views, this should concern you as a constitutional matter. Yet all of the election integrity measures in the world will mean nothing if we don't have free speech. And that's where we're at now. If Republicans can be censored for speaking the truth,
Ain't seen one do that yet.
and calling out corruption, we will not have democracy, and we will have only left-wing tyranny. And we can do this. We can do this. We're smarter than they are. We're tougher than they are. For some reason, we just don't. We don't get it done. We let them attack our businesses.
How? By raising your taxes and making you pay your fair share?
We don't attack their businesses. I believe your numbers are bigger than their numbers, but you're nicer than they are.
Nice, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, transphobic, fascist?
You're not as vicious as they are. In the past, we would debate. I would have it. I'd debate. You've seen me for many years. They throw something. I debate. They debate. Who knows who wins? You know, people go, they vote, they see what happens. But they would have an idea. They would disagree. The public would hear it. The debate and discourse would take place. And then somebody would make a decision. You would win. You would lose. the public would make up its mind. But now there is no debate because they refuse to allow our side to even speak or be heard.
Well, I'm not for censorship, but it's easy to understand why they do what they do. You're not debating in good faith. Freedom of speech is here to protect the spread of honest ideas, but when you're propagandizing statements you know are false, that's no longer true speech. It's now a distraction from real speech because we no longer know which ones are genuine positions you hold and which ones are not. I don't think the ones currently holding the levers of power can adequately decide who is being honest and good faith and who is not. But I'm certain you are not, so I won't feel bad about your censorship, even as I support free
They don't want
speech.
debate because we have easy victories in a debate. Very easy victories. It's called common sense.
Anybody who appeals to common sense as an argument is a retard.
The time has come to break up big tech monopolies and restore fair competition.
Well, big tech ain't my friend. Go ahead, break them up.
Republicans, conservatives must open up our platforms and repeal Section 230 liability protection.
That would reduce speech because it would make all companies responsible for everything posted on their websites. That would mean more censorship, dumb fuck. And all of them are just going along with
And
it.
if the federal government refuses to act, then every state in the union where we have the votes, which is a lot of them, big tech giants like Twitter, Google, and Facebook, should be punished with major sanctions whenever they silence conservative voices.
See, this shows how ideological and dogmatic they are. They only care about conservatives getting censored, despite the fact that progressives and leftists get censored by the media too. Of course, leftist discourse is in no way comparable to right-wing disinformation, but it just shows you these fascists don't actually care about speech. They don't care about anything except winning.
And Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and in Texas and in other states are doing this. If they do what they're doing, Florida, and that legislation will pass, and Texas and others will have tremendous power to do what's right and what's fair. We have no time to waste. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in Congress are racing to pass a flagrantly unconstitutional attack on the First Amendment and the integrity of our elections, known as H.R. 1. Do you know what H.R. 1 is? It's a disaster. Their bill would drastically restrict political speech, empower the federal government to shut down dissent, and turn the Federal Election Commission into a partisan political weapon.
Wait, what? The For the People Act, also known as H.R. 1, is here to expand voting rights, change campaign finance laws to reduce the influence of money in politics, limit gerrymandering, and create new ethics rules for federal office holders. How does this have anything to do with speech? Holy shit, he's actually using cancel culture as a pretense so that he can defend money in politics, gerrymandering, and voter suppression. How fucking despicable.
In addition, it virtually eliminates voter ID requirements nationwide, effectively ends all registration deadlines. Can you believe this? Requires states to give ballots to felons, automatically registers every welfare recipient to vote, and puts unaccountable, unelected bureaucrats in charge of drawing congressional districts. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's actually opposing a law which limits gerrymandering. He actually doesn't care about democracy.
This monster must be stopped. It cannot be allowed to pass. Now more than ever is the time for tough, strong, and energetic Republican leaders.
Blah, blah, radicals, blah, blah, socialism.
I've said to some of them, I said, you know, during the Obama years and now during Biden, if you spent the same energy on attacking them, you'd actually be successful.
Wait, why do you think Merrick Garland isn't a Supreme Court justice? It's because you guys obstructed all the time.
As you do on attacking me in many cases.
What a whiny snowflake bitch baby.
The Democrats don't have grandstanders like Mitt Romney, Little Ben Sass.
I feel like this is a fucking night of long knives. Like, if he ever became dictator, Trump would start murdering people in his own party.
Liz Cheney, how about that? The good news is in her state, she's been censured, and in her state, her poll numbers have dropped faster than any human being I've ever seen. So hopefully they'll get rid of her with the next election. Get rid of them all. Democrats are vicious. Remember this, it's true. Democrats are vicious. He said evil. Well, there is evil there. But they're vicious, they're smart, and they do one thing. You got to hand it to them. They always stick together. You don't have Mitt Romneys in the group.
The fuck are you talking about? It's the Republicans who have always banded together to obstruct progress. Democrats have conservative flakes like Joe Manchin on the right, and the progressive left is in a cold war with the establishment.
They always stick together. Fortunately, for the Republican Party, the Democrats have horrible policies like open borders, sanctuary cities, defunding the police, and the ridiculous, totally ridiculous, Green New Deal.
Why do Republicans have to lie so much? None of these positions are on the Democratic Party's platform. When's the last time a leftist so flagrantly misrepresented a conservative opinion?
So they stick together, they're smart, they're vicious, they got everything going, but their policies are no good. So hence we have, congratulations, the Republican Party. But if Republicans do not stick together, the rhinos that we're surrounded with will destroy the Republican Party and the American worker, and will destroy our country itself. The rhinos, you know, Republican in name only.
Conservatives are so unskeptical and conformist, I don't know how they convinced the population that leftists were the collectivists.
But the Republican Party is united. The only division is between a handful of Washington, D.C. establishment, political hacks, and everybody else all over the country. I think we have tremendous unity. When you look at the crowds outside that want your seat so badly, they will take your seat in 2 seconds. They want your seat. Congratulations. Congratulations on getting in, by the way. I'm very impressed. And that's why I'm announcing that I will be actively working to elect strong, tough, and smart Republican leaders.
Look, man, I called it. I fucking called it. I knew the Republican Civil War would not last more than a couple weeks.
Speaking of that, I heard Jim Jordan did a great job, right?
Trump talking about how valuable his endorsement is and how without it, you'll basically definitely lose.
What happened when they closed all of the counting booths? What happened at 3 o'clock in the morning? No president has ever lost an election after carrying Florida, Ohio, and Iowa.
Not that this means anything, but it's not even true. Trump running through more election fun facts and whining about how he lost.
If you want to help us take back the future of our country, go to
no grifting off me.
Because these people with their big tech and their fake news media right back there, okay? And you know, when you talk about election, they turn off. When you talk about, they probably have them going because they also care about ratings. But when they talk about election, they turn off the cameras. You know why? It's a very sore subject, okay?
Pretending that the establishment is the one that's sore. Oh my God.
We need your help to win and to fight big tech and the radical left and the D.C. establishment. We need to save your Second Amendment, which is under siege. We need to help protect funding for our military and for our great vets, and that's what we're doing. As we discussed earlier, we're in a struggle for the survival of America as we know it. This is a struggle. This is a terrible, terrible, painful struggle. The path ahead will not be easy, but we will win. We are going to win. Ultimately, we always win.
Have you seen the arc of history? Conservatives have always lost, man.
And when we do, history will show that this was the moment when we could have given up, when we could have despaired, but instead we chose to keep on pushing forward. The greater the challenge and tougher the task, the more determined we must be to pull through to triumph. We will summon the spirit of generations of American patriots before us.
Holy shit, summoning the spirits of our forefathers? That's some real Nazi shit.
Like those heroes who crossed the Delaware. And we will prevail. We're tougher than they are. We're stronger than they are.
Yup, another fascist trick. You present the opposition as simultaneously overwhelmingly powerful and pathetically weak.
Together in the coming years, we will carry forward the torch of American liberty. A Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House, and I wonder who that will be. Standing before you today, I am supremely confident that for our movement, for our party, and for our country, our brightest days are just ahead, and that together we will make America prouder, freer, stronger, and greater than it ever has been before. Thank you, CPAC. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you.
Holy shit, it's fucking over. Also, God doesn't exist, and you're proof of it.